based on the pound.
Yes, this has been the recurring theme of the final weeks of this campaign. We've seen the pound move on the markets as a result of the debate over Scottish independence. Let's look at how that effect has added up over the past few months. Back in June, £1 sterling is worth $1.70. Today it's trading at just under $1.63. It's up ever so slightly in trading on the markets today, but by a very small percentage. Overall, though, the trend has been downwards, a fall of almost 5% over that period. Currency market experts say that a yes vote could see declines of up to another 8% if Scotland decides to leave the UK. Of course, much of that debate in Scotland is over economic issues, and the fishing industry has become one of the battlegrounds, with both sides claiming they could help an industry that's in decline. Catherine Clifford has more.
They're joking around, but nevertheless the divide on independence is evident between these Scottish fishermen. Their industry needs all the help it can get, having declined sharply over the past 2 decades. Just 15 years ago, more than 4,000 tonnes of fish were landed here in Eyemouth. The annual catch has now flopped to less than a quarter of this. For some, independence could bring the boost the industry needs.
This government would now have the means to be really involved at the top table in decision making and can roll out several strategies and policies that are going to help the industry and regenerate the industry. I mean, it's still a huge resource in Scotland.
Statistically, fishing is an industry more crucial to Scotland than to the rest of the UK. The nation lands over 60% of the UK's total catch, while Scotland makes up just 8.4% of the UK's population. Scottish First Minister Alex Salmond's promised fishing would become a national priority in an independent Scotland, with direct representation in the EU and a fairer share of the EU fisheries budget. The No campaign argues Scotland now fishes more than its quota, catching some 30% more by leasing quotas from the rest of the UK, which it could no longer do if independent.
How do we square the circle of we use a lot more than we own, and we are able to do that because we're able to trade in a fluid system? What happens when that system stops?
In the event of a yes vote, an 18-month negotiation period would begin between the Scottish Government, Westminster, the EU and others. Until this were to go ahead, no one can know for sure what sort of waters the Scottish fishing industry would be sailing into.
Now, it's the third day of the pilot strike at Air France today. Like yesterday, some 60% of the carrier's flights have been cancelled this Wednesday. Flights to and from France's regional airports like Nice and Marseille have been worst affected so far. The company's shares have been sliding consistently since the action began on Monday. They closed down over 3% on Tuesday. The pilots are staging a week-long stoppage over the worst paying conditions being offered to their counterparts at Air France's low-cost carrier Transavia.
Now, we've got another strike here in France today. This time it's the legal profession.
Yeah, one of the peculiarities of the French legal profession is the highly protected profession of notaries. There's only 9,500 of these specialist lawyers in the whole country. Their main work is in property sales, where they're paid 1% of the purchase price of a house. Now, as part of the reform of protected professions, the government wants them to take a 20% cut in those fees. It's led to a nationwide strike today.
A 20% cut in fees unfortunately corresponds to a 20% rise in unemployment among our workers. In France, there are 48,000 people working in the notary sector. I'll let you do the calculations. It would be an industrial disaster, putting 10,000 people out of work.
Let's take a look at the markets next. And over in Asia, news that China's central bank is pumping liquidity into the banks there has given the Chinese banks some cheer on the markets. It's helped the Hang Seng up over 1% in trading today. The reported amount of that liquidity injection is over $81 billion, so a significant amount going into those Chinese banks. In Japan, the Nikkei's just closed down slightly, as you can see. News coming out from Sony there just after the close that they're expecting a $2.41 billion loss this year. That's 4 times more than forecast. We had known that they'd been having some difficulties, particularly in their TV business, but obviously we'll have more details of that as they emerge.
Now then, you bought yourself a car recently, or perhaps if not, you're planning to. Well, listen to this guy. It's a Chinese tycoon. He's made the single biggest order ever for Rolls Royces.
This is a man called Stephen Young. He owns one of the new casinos in China's gambling enclave of Macau. Now, he's placed a $20 million order for Rolls Royces, for 30 Rolls Royce Phantoms. He's going to use them to ferry customers to and from his casino in Macau. Now, Mr. Hung already has a taste for luxury cars, for Rolls Royces in particular. In fact, according to the Financial Times, he owns 4 of them himself already. I don't know why he'd need more than one, but anyway. And his wife, Deborah, has a pink one that's known very well from the streets of Hong Kong, apparently. It even has Deborah on the number plate.
Oh, very nice. I wish we'd got shots of the pink one. It would make it different, wouldn't it? Stephen Carroll keeping us up to date with Rolls Royces here on France 24. Coming up for you, we've got the High Fiver in New York. It's a little bit of fun. You'll see it in Video of the Day shortly. Web News, though, begins today with a story about WikiLeaks and spying.